30. There it is. Recording's in progress. Got it. Okay. Dismiss this. How's everyone doing? Good?
Okay.
So I didn't see the minutes from the last meeting. Did you?
I did send them to Darlene and their she said that she posted them.
I didn't. Oh. Couldn't find them. They're on they're on the site, the website, you think?
She said, yeah, she said they're where am I? Yeah, she sent me an email on Monday or Tuesday morning that said got them and they're up. So, but I can pull them. Where?
Joyce, where are we? Where do we land on the town website?
You would be under the selectmen, under subcommittees.
Yeah.
Yeah, under Board of Selectmen subcommittees.
You gotta, yeah, boards and commissions, and then halfway down Main Street noise and traffic subcommittee.
I'm there now. Minutes, okay. So has anyone, of course, Andrew, you've seen them. Glenn, did you see these?
I did, yes.
Okay, so this is the February 24th, so I am behind, sorry guys.
I tried to be really detailed, maybe too detailed.
I still can't see, I see the, our page, our landing page, but I do not see the minutes. I see a recording of it.
It's right under the recording. It says Main Street noise and traffic Zoom recording, February 24th, okay, under Main Street.
Right. All right. All right. And this is what you also somewhat dropped into the drive.
Yeah. So the drive was based on the meeting minute notes because you said that we were trying to have our sort of, not silos because we need everything to talk to each other, but sort of the categories. So I was making notes about the recommendations, and I maybe got a little bit carried away.
No, I think that actually they look really good.
I mean, I haven't gotten very far in what you asked, all the tasks you asked me to do. It's been a busy week. Having a toddler is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
So what I started doing, oh, I'm sorry. Are we approving the minute? I'm sorry. I think I jumped ahead of.
I've just zipped through them, so I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded, or so moved, sorry.
It's okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let me just get back to you. Actually, that I thought was well done, Andrea. Despite you think you were overdoing it. It's taking a lot of time, and also like is in the way. I myself only got to the trooper issue, the trooper comments, if you will, and trooper's the wrong way, the trooper program.
Okay.
I spoke to Jean. I asked her to drop into our doc system I guess the only thing we can look at is the contract between this town and the troop with respect to what's outlined, because in my discussion with Jean, the relationship she has and any previous first selectman has had with the resident trooper program is not to say the town sentiment is we need you to focus here X amount of time.
Okay.
It's sort of just the trooper does it and then has to go off and do other things that, you know, are maybe not as public, if you will, following up on issues and concerns and situations. I also, in my conversation with Gene, is I don't, and you guys can weigh in here, but I don't think it is our role to say, we want you to put a trooper here, you know, every Thursday at 12 to 7, you know. I think what our job to do is identify that there might be, that there potentially is a lack of enforcement, and the selectmen need to do something about that. And there's a lack of presence downtown to help establish order, if you will, or and in doing so, then, you know, maybe they hire, we have had some other ideas, hiring up extra troopers during weekends or constables or things like that. I think, you know, Gene heard me on that and said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I just so you know, I called Andrew twice at the troop there in Litchfield, and I hadn't heard from him. And then I was driving down here. I'm actually at 18 lane for the other meeting I had today, selectman meeting, and I saw him actually. So I said, Andrew, hi. So I told him I was on this committee and that I was trying to reach out. So we're going to meet this weekend. So either Saturday, Sunday, and if something happens, definitely Monday. So by the next time we meet, I will have had coffee with him, and we're going to talk about all these issues and then some. So
great. And just to that's great, Glenn, thank you. And just to follow up on that, I have had that conversation sitting in your seat with him, and I, you know, Gene mentioned, well, why don't you just have Andrew come in? I'm like, well, Andrew does not want to be out publicly and, you know, have to describe and discuss, nor do I think it's appropriate. But if you can talk to him as a selectman, I think that is appropriate. Number one. Number two, if you can get from him and follow up on the theme and the idea and the thread that I've been working on with him of what would it cost budget-wise, just rough numbers, we don't need to have specifics, and how would it work to have a constable situation or I'm going to, for lack of a better term, weekend help during tough times. And if you can discern that, and again, it's in rough numbers and rough ideas, because I think we're just going to turn around and sort of put that in a format and say, you know, here we've identified this as a challenge. And if you could get from him, because I think it was interesting, the concept in the documentation of decibels, and, you know, I know there's like a whole dynamic of there has to be a person who's specially trained how to use a machine, but what other ideas and thoughts and concepts can have they seen that's effective without having to go out and, you know, train a guy? And it would just be interesting to know what it would take to find a guy who can monitor that. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's so many cool things that technologically can happen. If you can pick up somebody on a radar and flash too fast, I can't see why you couldn't flash too loud. I just can't see it, but
maybe we,
Yep.
Yeah, we got to figure out what the current technology is, I guess. Glenn, another thought about that meeting is I've talked to Andrew before, you know, just as a new resident and new mom about these safety concerns with the speed on Main Street. And the idea I got from him was that it was really hard to enforce, not just because of the, you know, having to be in more than one place at the same time kind of idea, but also just the number of in-person interactions increases. So by in-person interaction, I mean, like when you pull someone over, if we're going too fast, that's an interaction. It increases like the risk of like escalation, which was what he said, and seems sort of resigned to like, well, what good is it going to do? So I think that moves us into what I talked about last week of what would it take, what would it take cost wise, but then also what is the troopers, resident trooper programs insight on if we just have radar enforced and we're mailing out tickets, because that totally eliminates that concern that he expressed to me, as it totally eliminates that safety and like escalation of the interaction issue. And it allows us to basically use technology to do the job and free up our troopers to do other safety things, right? Responding to those house calls and those kind of things. But I don't know what the stance of the trooper program is about that. Do they see that as a good thing? I think it's a good thing, but maybe they have a different idea. And to know more about like what you said, Chris, about what other towns are doing, what other trooper area, we're Troop B, right? L? B?
We're Troop L.
L.
Okay. So like what other troop areas are doing about that, and if there's experience with having it radar and mailed out. I know they do that a lot in California. Had to deal with that when we lived there. So, all right. So that's all.
Yeah, let me just reiterate or add to that, because I think Andrea is right, is Glenn, in that discussion with the trooper, I think the way I approach it with Andrew is I'm not looking to tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for you to help us solve these problems that I don't know why you can't, for whatever reason, you can't seem to have, you don't either have the resources or you don't have the time or you don't have the, I dare say, inclination, but help free him from that when he's not under scrutiny. What's under scrutiny is what are ideas in the police enforcement world, as Andrea said, go out and what else are other people doing? And doesn't matter what the cost is, because we're just getting information. That's all we're getting. And whatever that is, then we'll just try it. We'll throw it up and see if it sticks on the wall. And it could be a compilation of things. It could be, I don't know. Clearly speed should be handled in either one or two ways. You get them by a camera or you pull them over. I don't think that and you're not going to hire Chris Garrity as a constable on a Friday and Saturday and Sunday to get in a little Jeep with a little thing to pull people over with my Lions Club hat. I think that, clearly there's an enforcement concern there. And it would just be great to know what our alternatives are.
I will ask him. Yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
And you just may want to get that contract outline from Gene sooner than later if you're going to meet before him, just to give a read through that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What else we have? Andrea, nice work on the signs and stuff.
So I only did a quarter of the work, I guess, because I only did the investigation coming from the north on 7. But one thing that stood out to me, okay, so there's a couple things going on. Sorry, I have a lot of windows open. Here we are. So in the folder, there is a 164 page.
Yes, there is.
For guidelines for establishing speed limits. I'm on page 27. I'm reading that. So So it's going a little bit slow, but what I did highlight that so far that I've gotten through, if on the safety recommendations,
Yep, I saw that.
That I made, is that when you are coming from the north, there is a speed limit sign that said, so just north of Cobble Lane intersection, there's a speed limit that says, it's the yellow. So we talked a little in our email. Yellow is like advisory, white is law. So there's a yellow speed limit ahead sign that says yellow speed limit ahead 30 miles per hour sign. And then about 100 yards later, there is the white speed limit 30 sign to tell you as you're coming into Kent. Then there's a sign that says Kent, you're in Kent. It's the, the state sign, state shape. Then there is the most northern pedestrian crosswalk at the Kent Community House, sort of. The sidewalk just ends. That's another issue. And then there's another speed limit 30 sign. So like I've crossed at that crosswalk many times, like to go to the thrift store or to go to the community house to donate blood. And it is terrifying because people aren't going 30, even though that sign is there. And then there's the sign, another speed limit sign at the Gibbs house just beyond that crosswalk. So people are going too fast before that crosswalk. And then there are no other signs that tell you what the speed limit is on Main Street. Okay, so the thing that comes up is in that 160 plus page guidelines for establishing speed limits in the state of Connecticut, which was updated October 2021. So it's up to date as far as what the state wants to do. Chapter 7, Section 1A says additional speed limit signs shall be installed beyond major intersections and at other locations where it is necessary to remind road users of the speed limit that is applicable. So there's a few things going on. Is there are no signs near the intersection of 7 and 341 that tell you what the speed limit is after you've turned off of the opposite road, right? Like if you are coming into town on Bog Hollow on 341 and you pass Kent School, there's that one sign that says 30 miles an hour. And then there's that, hey, you should probably maybe only go 25, or it says 35. And then it says, there's that yellow sign that says you should probably only go 25 because there's this road, an intersection sign. But then there's nothing else that says it's really only 35, guys, you should slow down. And then when you get to the light, if you turn left to go up North Main Street, no signs that tell you what the speed limit is. If you turn right to go down South Main Street, no signs to tell you that it's only 30. So that's the first problem. So according to this, there should be signs there. And then the other thing is there is no indication to drivers who are turning onto Main Street from businesses like the Kent Green to remind them like this road is only 30 miles an hour, guys. So people come out of, especially coming out of the northern Kent Green, the one up between Sophie's and Cos. So when you're at Sophie's and you turn right to go north, there's nothing there that says you should only be going 30 for that last stretch of town. So that was what one of our other residents, Deb, was talking about last week. She lives north, you live north of there too. People just turn right and just book it. There's nothing that tells them the speed limit in town is this. And there's really only what you were talking about last week, those ones at the edge of town. And then there's no other reminders. So just based on that, what I got through only 27 pages of this, to me, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. Now I also saw that there was this, the town, at least it referenced that the town should have an LTA,
Local Traffic Authority.
Traffic, and I don't think we have one.
So it does say, so that was a question I had for Glenn. It does say that You should have one, or if you don't have one, or if your board of selectmen functions in that role. So the question would be, does the board of selectmen function in that role?
Say this again, a local traffic authority, this is a position?
According to the state of Connecticut, hold on, let me find it.
Yeah, there are two governing bodies.
The OTSA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the local traffic authority, Glenn. It's called just, the acronym of LTA. And it says, many municipalities may establish, modify, and maintain speed limits on streets, highways, and bridges, or in any parking area for 10 cars or more under the jurisdiction without approval from the Office of State Traffic Administration.
So the local traffic authority only, so that what you just read says specifically municipally owned.
Yeah, that's what
roads.
It's referring to.
So it's not for Main Street and
Yep.
it's not for 7 and 341. We still had to go through DOT
The
on
OSTA.
that. Yeah, the Office of OTSA, OSTA?
OSTA.
OSTA, Office of State Traffic Administration.
Right. I was also, they have some interesting maps here. And then, so what's a thought from you guys as to how to best handle in terms of a recommendation, again, because shaping in the form of a recommendation to the board that we want to convey. And what I found interesting was the, what was that other, it was definitely a written in-house by somebody, and I don't know who it was. I'm just opening that document again. Who wrote the Kent Community Road Survey? Do we know, Joyce? Road Safety Audit, was that done in conjunction with the sidewalks?
Oh, the RSA.
I'm sorry?
So the RSA, the Kent Road Safety Audit was done with the Community Connectivity Program.
Right, that's the grant.
With the DOT, and the people that they hired to do it was AECOM, AECOM.
Yeah. So I thought that they had some, clearly they've done a lot of that work. I found what's interesting is they only considered the village though. See, I consider the village when you're over Kent School. I also consider the village over near, when you come in on Maple Street, not Maple Street Extension, but when you come in past,
Yeah, like the transfer station.
Transfer station, Hedson's office, all of that. And I think they've just focused on Bridge Street from South Commons, Bridge Street to Maple Street Extension, all the way up to my house. And so that's why, they still didn't say why in the document, some are 35 and some are 30. I would imagine Kent School and even at Elizabeth Street, those roadways certainly have a lot of children passing and repassing on it. Something should be, I think, flagged there.
Yeah.
What do you guys think in terms of how do we shape this? And let's just forget about enforcement, forget about all that. Let's just first focus on signage and crosswalks and things like that.
So, I mean, I didn't get through the whole guidelines for establishing speed limits, but it was sort of disheartening what I did read, because I kept saying, like, based on what drivers currently do or feel is safe. And I don't feel like what people are driving is safe as both a driver and a pedestrian. You know, I go 25 in town, maybe 20, depending on, you know, how busy it is. But it does talk a lot about how the number of crosswalks, the number of pedestrians, the number of on-street parking, which we have, the number of bikes, those kind of things. So we have lots of students, like you're saying, lots of children, lots of young families. You know, I can walk differently as just me walking versus when I am pushing a stroller. So though, you know, those kind of like, and reacting to, you know, potential hazards. So those are all sort of things that need to be taken into account, in addition to people trying to come from like Templeton Farms and walking, you know, who maybe don't have the same like mobility skills as I do in my 30s. So I think you're right. I think we need to look at the signage, but then the other thing that came up in the road safety audit and was that there's a lot of signs between the all of the business signs and then sort of the extra sort of navigational Chamber of Commerce signs, parking signs. There's just like a lot, the railroad signs, the crosswalk signs, there's sort of just like a lot going on, really busy. And so that was something that came up. So our signage has to be sort of, we have to put the right signs at the right places.
When was that audit done?
2016.
So there were recommendations made then. Were there any changes to the signage at that point?
Yes. So the road safety audit is in the Main Street safety folder that Joyce made for us. And if you scroll down to page 25, there 25. There are recommendations broken out by short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And I know after talking to Jean last summer that there were some things that did get done, like the railroad arm bars got fixed for making sure that you couldn't drive into the train tracks while the train was coming. And some places had the handicap ramps, detectable warning strips installed at the intersections, especially at the light, but I'm not sure if they got put at all of the crosswalk intersections. But pages 25, 26, and 27 include all of those recommendations. And some of them include things that I had already talked about, as far as like how to make the crosswalk safer. So I knew I wasn't off base. One thing that they said, instead of using more signs, was actually painting sharrows, bike lane share arrows or sharrows on the road to sort of emphasize like there are bikes that ride on this road too, not just cars, instead of increased signage. That's on page 29.
Also, I remember them saying something to the effect that 17 seconds was enough time for a pedestrian to cross at the monument. So, you know, I don't know how one gauges that, but
okay. So they did say that. They did say that, which I found silly because they were measuring it based on 17 seconds to just cross one way, right? From the gas station to Swift, or from like Vin's house to the church, or from Vin's house to the gas station, right? And so
they weren't taking into consideration the whole cross.
The whole cross, even though it is, you can cross all the directions. And it says that very plainly, like all the directions are allowed to go to cross, everything is red all at the same time. It also did recommend having a crosswalk at the church, north of the monument, to make it so that there was a way to get across all sides of the intersection. So that was a recommendation, but that involves adding like even more, like another pedestrian signal, like out in front of Swift, basically. So it wouldn't be like the same crossing signal as it is like at the corner where Swift and Ore Hill restaurants are. It's kind of like how the one crossing from like Vin's house to the church is offset from the one right at the corner. So they would be sort of like offset. So that was a recommendation. And they did say 17 seconds was enough time, but it was only for crossing one way, like one leg of the trip. And that's great, but that's not what actually happens on a day-to-day basis by pedestrians, whether it's me coming from my house trying to get to the library or the post office, or Kent school students coming from Kent school and trying to get into town to buy their Sunday groceries at IGA. People are crossing, you have to cross twice, to the gas station and then to Swift, or on the diagonal.
Right.
And so 17 seconds is not enough time for that. I also don't think, based on the limited community ambulator gate speed of 0.7 meters per second, that I don't think that 17 seconds is enough for a person like that either. And when I say limited community ambulator and 0.7 meters per second, we're looking at, not somebody that's like inching along using a walker. Like we're talking about like, your grandma holding your hand kind of thing. Right. Like this isn't, or people in wheelchairs, or people with, if I'm pushing a stroller and also am holding on to a toddler's hand, like that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. We're not saying like, oh no, we have to stop all traffic forever for someone to crawl across the road.
So here's a question, and I apologize for not seeing this audit yet, but I'll take a look after this meeting. So there was an audit done. It was 6 years ago, give or take. Some of these recommendations were proposed and were changed, completed, like things happened, and then others very few of them. So why were the others not? Do we know? Like, where did this audit go? Did it fall on deaf ears? Was it the Board of Selectmen? Did it have to go to the DOT? I mean, where did this go?
I don't know. As far as I can tell, only being able to have your Board of Selectmen for 2 years kind of puts a cramp in the continuity of governance issues.
But at least it sounds like
that's part of it.
Sounds like there's a lot of overlap to what we've been talking about and what was already completed. So that's a good
there
start.
is.
Yeah.
There is. This I believe was this was that connectivity grant, and I believe this is what was in conjunction with the development of the sidewalk projects, which they reference all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. But it was also, I think, you can see there are pictures of DOT in this. You can see the picture of DOT and other people touring, doing the walk around. I believe it was done with Bruce and a bunch of other people from the committee. And this was all sort of in preparation for the sidewalks, somewhat.
Okay.
But of course, there were some things that they did effectuate, because you'll see there's somewhere in this is pictures of these little rubber pads that were installed. They also came in and did curb cuts because there was this big ADA issue. And so the state just came in and one day, 1 week just started putting them all in. And so, and it was sort of incongruous to the concept of putting in sidewalks. But clearly DOT did take care of something.
Okay.
Specifically,
I think they took care of those like immediate safety things like you're talking about with ADA and like the railroad arm bar being broken.
right. And the tree that was in front of the sign in front of my house. But Glenn, you're right. This was done, and I think this is a good thing for us to sort of just reiterate to the selectmen. And I think it's a great sort of pedestrian / sign / crosswalk under that umbrella. We can use this as sort of, hey, this was done great, but this, and this need to be done.
Is it possible that some of these recommendations haven't been done because the streetscape project just hasn't begun?
Yes.
And I think that's in part. Okay, I don't think it's all though.
But not all.
It's, you know, there are still crosswalks that need to be painted.
Yeah.
I mean, those things fade every, you know, it just takes 2 years and those things are gone.
Would it behoove us to reach out to Mike Gowell or someone else on the streetscape committee to ask how they feel about this audit and what we're talking about?
I did speak to Mike a month or so ago, and clearly their focus is just getting the bid and doing this, but they have these components in place, but not so much with signage. I asked him specifically about signs, and he said, well, the signage is really not their top priority, and it really isn't in the focus of, for the most part. And I would agree with the comment Andrea made. There are so many signs in town. I don't know if signage is necessarily, or more signs is appropriate. I think what we may want to think about is strategically placing signs or asking for signs to be done, and also maybe different sort of indicators. So as an example,
like
in the crosswalks, we have signs, but if they lit up, would that be helpful or not? They're not pretty, I get it. But you know, might that be a
They're their own Christmas lights. What do you mean they're not pretty?
There you go, their own Christmas lights. Change them for the season.
And you two were definitely both right. I mean, I did it a couple of times. I went to the Kent School hockey rink and then just went into town, and yep, there's that yellow 25-mile-an-hour suggestion, and then 15 feet beyond that is the 30, 35 mile an hour. It's just incongruous. It doesn't make sense for that sign to be there, actually.
So that was my question, was if it's not safe to go 35 here, why is it 35?
But is it true that the white sign supersedes the yellow sign? The yellow sign is a suggestion? Yeah,
it's like a warning.
It is a warning, yeah.
Yeah,
it's actually a warning that there's an intersection coming. I think that's what it's for, is it not?
Yeah, it's for the intersection coming from whatever that white house is over across from the ice rink.
Right.
I mean, if we did something substantive, I mean, I did it back and forth thinking, I mean, it should be 25 miles an hour from that Kent hockey rink right to the monument, right to the light. I mean, you've got Kent Center School over there, right, Chris Garrity? You know those buses. You know those buses. I mean, nothing should be 30 to 35 miles an hour there. I mean, it should be 25. Yeah. There's kids there all the time. And
well, again, Glenn, you know, those are the signs and those are the speed limits that the state of DOT and the OSTA have instituted there. Yeah. So I think the question from the selectmen's perspective is, can we effectuate a change there because of these circumstances? Kent Center School, Kent School. And, you know, when these were established, Kent School stayed on campus for the most part. They walked into town. But now Kent School, as we all know, has the Peace Center. And they have a lot of kids who are walking for class purposes. So it's just something to be, you know, I think we just have to help the selectmen or empower them with the information that they can go and say, okay, this is what we would like to see.
Right. And
So
there is in that 165-page guidelines for establishing speed limits, there is like a letter that they have a sample letter that the LTA, whoever that is, the local transit authority. So whether that's the Board of Selectmen, that's a question for you guys. To write to the DOT to say, hey, we need you to come with your engineers to look at this. And so I agree with you, Glenn, that 35 is way too fast. I think both roads should be 25 because on-street parking changes the width of the road, right? So the narrower the road gets, the slower cars need to drive. That was something that is said in this thing. The other thing it says is that the number of pedestrians and crosswalks is going to impact that. So you're exactly right with Kent Center School, Kent School. The other thing I was thinking about on-street parking is on Sundays, for whatever bizarre reason, everyone who goes to Sacred Heart thinks they can park on both sidewalks. And so then there is effectively not a sidewalk from 9:45 a.m. till 11:10 a.m. when mass gets out. And as someone who walks to that church, it is very frustrating. But that changes the width of the road, right? And people are still going too fast and you're forced off the sidewalk and into the road. There's just so much going on that when the DOT made these speed limits, like you're saying, Chris, that no one was coming off campus. They were staying on Kent School campus. Well, now it's different. Last week you talked about like our technology has changed. We can just go so much faster in cars. We're not worrying about like having to shift gears. And cars are quieter. They're, Prius, but they're also much louder, motorcycles, and big trucks. So everything is changing. So we can write a letter. There's like a letter sample that would say all that. But I think what is happening is when these laws or the speed limits were constructed, lots of things changed, but also people aren't really looking at how in reality are these roads used. Did they know that on Sundays, both sides of 341 or Bridge Street turn into a parking lot? No.
Well,
did they know that?
They do know that, Andrea, and they have, as small towns grow, they have just sort of ignored it. I myself, who used to live on Elizabeth Street, it would bother me quite a bit trying to navigate with small children or strollers and such. But that's all going to change when the sidewalks come in, because those sidewalks are going to be granite curbs, and the first person who decides that they're going to park on the sidewalk will feel the wrath of God through granite. And so really what you're going to do is you're going to narrow that significantly. And again, there are a lot of older people coming in and out of the church. And so I think what we're doing is, because we have local knowledge, we're going to need to put that together and help shape that recommendation of why we think that the appeal to the DOT, it's prudent to bring that down.
So here's a question. So when we come up with this report, it's going to have multiple points, I'm sure. And what will then happen? This goes to the Board of Selectmen. We will talk about it. And should we want to, for example, change a sign on a state highway, we're going to have to write to the Connecticut DOT. I haven't been a selectman for too long. I don't know if we have a local traffic authority, a person. Christy, do you know? I don't think
no, it is the Board of Selectmen, I think, but we've been dealing with the local traffic authority. Is you'll see it on the signs on the back streets of Elizabeth Street. It'll say speed limit 15 per BOS. And that's
right.
Basically the LTA.
Yeah.
But just
So
to
we'll-
carry that, just to
yeah.
carry that point, Glenn, what will happen is whatever we recommend, you guys can pick and choose whether you agree or disagree with it.
Yep.
What would likely happen, and this is just sort of bringing me a thought, what will likely happen is you'd probably just have a local DOT representative come out
Okay.
and meet and go over, and really, because they're going to have their own rationale
Yep.
for certain things that we're probably not even thinking of, even though it's in their outlines that they have this and that. They're going to say, yeah, but our experience is such that this makes sense here at this way. And
Sure.
and then you guys are going to have to say, okay, well, we understand that, or we'd prefer not to, however that works.
Okay. Yeah,
but it
right.
There's
does
another sample letter that says if you disagree with what the DOT says, then you write another letter.
right. But I know I know Rick's had a very good relationship with DOT, and DOT has been very much in and out on our project for the sidewalks. Of course, there are different groups, but so I think we have enough of a working relationship. And I think because the sidewalks are coming in, it's an opportune time to do it, which actually leads me to a thought and a suggestion, and see what you guys think, is rather than trying to eat this whole elephant of noise, traffic, and enforcement, which is, I think, kind of what we're the 3 points we've identified, and maybe engagement as well being the fourth. Do you think it might be best to take this document here, take the information that Andrea's pulled together, and maybe just do a first recommendation just on pedestrian sign, crosswalk safety first, so that the selectmen can actually dig into it, think about it, have maybe DOT engagement, at which point we can then come back, reconvene, and talk about, as an example, we can dig into the noise ordinance and then see what we think about that, and really get some thoughts so that we're all focusing on the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That makes sense?
That does make sense.
Yes.
Andrea, you agree?
Yes. With one caveat, I am not done giving out with that recommendation, like research thing that I started. It is not finished. I'm not done with it. I still need to put in the data for gate speed, ambulation speed, what those different types of things mean, and who are we talking about? You know, people with short legs like toddlers, or people with slow legs like older people, and even you know, people who are blind or deaf too. Like that was one of those considerations, like you said, with the cutouts, that those get put at the bumpy parts are for people who are blind to signify where the crosswalk or where the intersection is. So there's a lot more than just what we've talked about as far as like physical mobility. And I think you're right that we could focus on like one section at a time. But just letting you know, like, I am not done with the research recommendations by any stretch of the imagination. There is a lot to read between the 64-page road safety audit and the 164-page how to set a speed limit thing. I'm not done, but I did, just in the first 25 pages, it was clear that we're missing signs. We're missing how to give information about what the speed limit is, because there are so many people that don't drive here regularly. They come and visit, they park wherever, they go to all the businesses, they spend all day, they eat, they drink, they buy all the art, and then they get back in their car and they have no idea what the speed limit is, right? When they turn back onto Main Street. So there's something missing there, but I do think you're right in saying that we need some kind of other signage. And I think painting on the road makes a lot of sense. Whether it's a Shero, like what was suggested in the road safety audit, or just a sign, just says 25 miles per hour painted on the highway, painted on Route 7 and 341. Because you're right, Glenn, that is 35 is way too fast.
So what should we do here? So let's say the next meeting, for example, we meet next, and we're going to focus on one, like let's say, crosswalks, for example, and we'll meet however many times it takes. We're going to write a report about that and send that to the selectmen first, and then keep going with signage and then with noise. Or do we segment this out, write a report for all three, give them the board of selectmen all at the same time, and they can figure it out? What's your thinking on that?
Mine's the former. And I would, rather than just crosswalks, I think we should lump it into what is considered pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
Because
okay.
Basically we're talking about cars versus people. So if we just deal with the pedestrian component of it, I think we have some pretty solid ideas already, and we've identified some holes. And when you go to this survey that was done, you can see that those holes have already been identified, and some they haven't. And some have just been an acknowledgement. I think we're going beyond acknowledgement to we need these to be really addressed and looked at. Like your comment about the speed, Glenn, coming in from 341. So, and our recommendation would be, this is our recommendation based on 2 schools, a church, and a light with, with a monument that you can't really see people coming at you because of that monument. It's most appropriate to really slow people down sooner before they get over the bridge, if you will. Yeah. And then it would be, if that were, let's just make it up, that was number 1 on our list of all the things we have. That, and number 2 was and I'm gonna forget it again, Andrea, help me with the crosswalk, the diagonal.
The scramble? Oh, the scramble.
The scramble. Say scramble's number 2, giving reason and rationale, and using Andrea's component, the perambulator, calculations.
Gate speed.
Once we have that would be and we would press that those are our top issues. Okay. And we need them to address them and really do that aggressively. And then, maybe 4, 5, 6 is signs coming in talking about speed limit, and then signs inside being speed limits. And then, if we outline it that way and give them direction is that we think, I think that would be effective.
What do we as a town have more control over? Where pedestrians go? I mean, all these sidewalks or signage. Signage to me, we got to go through Connecticut DOT to some degree, to a large degree. But in terms of pedestrians, we have a streetscape project. We have an audit. We as a town we already have decided, I think, where certain crosswalks are going. But we don't need, do we need Connecticut DOT to paint sidewalks? Like where crosswalks go?
So there are 2 things. The DOT decides where crosswalks go, not anyone else.
Okay.
With respect to pedestrians, the state owns the land. The town is responsible for putting in sidewalks and maintaining them.
Yep.
So that's why it's on our nickel to do this, even though they're the ones that tell us where and how we can do it. Just the way it is.
So Connecticut DOT is involved no matter what we're talking about here.
No matter what, anything in their right of way, they have. Okay. That's why, for instance, even to put the signs up that blink, you have to have a permit. Okay. So you have to make an application. And you go to them and they approve it or don't, or they say this is where it's most appropriate to go. But as we've talked about before, there might be better placement. I don't know their rationale as to why they place it where they place it, but it seems to me, and I think Bob Indorf's comment was right, maybe it would be better served a little bit further down. Yeah. But I don't know whether there's a rationale for it. We can recommend that they look at that, and they could come back, as we said, and say, no, this is where it's most appropriate. Which goes back to my comment about when they did the map. They consider the village, I think, a little tighter than I would consider the village. Yeah. I consider the village starting all the way up at the Cobble, Cobble Lane, that dirt road, way up past my house. And I consider it for two reasons. One, that's when the density starts to loosen. But two, the sewer line goes just right up to there. So, you know, logic says that's still village. So I think that what I see is being able to put together a program that says to the selectmen, we have looked at the town traffic and safety and noise, if you will. But right now we're looking at the traffic, and we're talking pedestrian traffic. And pedestrian traffic, specifically with signage, crosswalks, and speed limits, are something that we could, I think, tie up in a pretty good bow, and then say, you know, based on other audits that have been done in the past and looking at DOT's rules and regulations, we think there are some ways to improve and tighten it.
Okay.
I think that is a good idea because I am super overwhelmed looking at, like, the scope of the problem is very big. And when I wrote a very long, sleep deprived, while nursing my baby email to Jean after reading the 64-page road safety audit last summer, I didn't know this was what I was going to be signing up for. So I'm glad to have signed up for it, but it is a lot. I have, like, the flip side of this is, if we break it up like this, is a DOT going to say, what the hell, we already talked to you? Like, are they going to say, we've already been talking to you? Are they going to come back and say, why do you have so many problems, Kent? Or are they going to appreciate that we've broken it up into more manageable chunks?
Well, help me here, but my thinking is that what we're breaking up, this first part, is all DOT.
Yeah.
It has, and then what we will then break out is all enforcement, which is not DOT, but would be the trooper and also the role of the selectman as policing body. Then what we would call out is engagement, which would be probably a softer thing with Chamber of Commerce and maybe a community-based program to help people slow down or not make so much noise or comport themselves in a manner that we would all like to see.
Makes us proud to be Kent.
Yeah. So that's how I see it broken down, like that. In fact, that's why I was I kept running from here to here, and I said, oh, Andrea's doing this and Glenn's doing this, but I'm trying to do this. It seemed a little shuffling around. So Andrea, I think you're probably the most focused in this, which is great, because you know you were working off of the starting at your house and the crosswalks and then going from there. So I think that's helped for me shape the concept of, this is a big animal. Why don't we just try to tackle this one first?
Yeah. And I guess what I also need to do, and maybe I need more help finding it, is looking at what has been recommended for the sidewalk stuff, because in the 2016 road safety audit, it references like all these new crosswalks that the sidewalks are going to involve. And so I don't know, I need help finding that plan, and are those new crosswalks going in, that kind of stuff.
So I can tell you that no, those crosswalks are not going in, much to the chagrin of many.
Everybody.
But that said, I can see if I can get that. We have it. Joyce, where is that? Do you know exactly where we can? It's not just the specs, because honestly, reading those specs is like reading like a dental probes, you know, mechanical stuff.
I'm not an engineer, so it wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I can get something from Rick.
That would be great. Thank you, Joyce. And just pop it on and then we can see that. But the short answer is, Andrea, no, the DOT is not really interested in putting more crosswalks in. I think the fact of the matter is that people are going to jaywalk. It is going to be just the way it is.
I'll donate my driveway. We need a crosswalk on South Main Street. I will let it happen at my driveway. It's fine.
Yeah, because, well, the way they'll look at it is there's one at the light. That's where people should be crossing. if anything, there should be one down at, there honestly should be a
greenhouse.
sidewalk all the way down to the greenhouse and then across to South Commons. And then that's your rectangle, if you will. But
That'd be great.
but I don't think they're going that far. I don't believe. In any event, all right.
Are the sidewalks going that far?
You know, it's been, I think we recommended it. I don't know, honestly, if I can't recall. And what Joyce will have will actually point it out exactly what they're specking out.
Because that was what was recommended in the road safety audit was you need sidewalk, because right now the sidewalk ends just beyond artifacts. It doesn't even go to the greenhouse. Well, it sort of is this big cut right in front of the derelict house there. But all right, so for next meeting, do we want to try to pull together these thoughts? So if we all go back and look at the audit and then pull out what we think is germane, and then see what we can put together and agree on in terms of, I think we're pretty much together on recommending certainly cleaning up and painting all the crosswalks that are in existence. Number two, installing, or at least investigating installing the scramble, and also the timing of the lights. But I think if we can all just sort of talk about coming in from 341 and then a few other ideas, then we could put all that together and then see how that shapes up.
Yes.
Okay, so intersection safety, repainting the crosswalks, and then the speed limit. That's what we're working on this week. I'm just making sure I have.
And I will meet with Andrew and ask him all those questions.
Yeah, and Glenn, that can be somewhat of a slow burn.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, Andrew's, but yeah, it's great that you're starting that.
I'll start that. Yep.
Okay.
And just for a crazy idea, if you two would like to walk the streets of Kent with me at some point, I think that would we just walk around and we could save a lot of time, even in this meeting. You know,
I agree. That's a good suggestion.
Just walk around, take notes.
Yeah, we can warn that.
Oh, that's a meeting. That's right.
That's a meeting.
We can warn it.
You can warn it. Just let me know. That is a warning.
Oh, okay.
That is a meeting.
Oh, okay.
We can warn it, and then Joyce has to follow us around.
No, I do not.
Come on, Joyce. We can walk around. We'll stop at the Swift House.
So if there's all three of us, it's a meeting. But if just Glenn and I meet at the library when I'm playing with the baby,
too.
That's a meeting too. Yeah, that's a meeting. I forgot.
Just thinking it's Andrea's a meeting.
Yes.
Well, then I was thinking it out loud on Wednesday at the library with all the other parents.
Well, you know what? Actually, it wouldn't be bad to have more parents and more engagement. I like that. If there are people out there and about.
I did invite people, and they all said, "You know, that's bedtime, right?" And I was like, "Yes, I am aware that it is the baby's toddler's bedtime." Yes, but is. Here I am.
Well,
so yeah, just this committee. I mean, so Ira is still interested in being here.
Yeah,
you know?
He said I spoke to him, and he said that he had still work tonight that he had to get to, so that's understandable.
And Mr. Ken Deeds, is that the other fellow? Is he interested still or no?
No. So that I wrote you guys that email last week that he texted me and said that he was prepared last summer when we had all talked about this and got appointed to this subcommittee, and then nothing happened. And now he doesn't have time. So I don't know if we need to replace or just
I believe
crawl along like us in our little 3-person quorum.
Well, you can, I believe it was 5 members, was it not, Joyce? Do you recall at all?
Most of the subcommittees were created without a specific number. They were just created
up to or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think that unless we feel like we're getting into real a challenge, I think we move along as we move along.
Okay.
But you should at least make a motion to make a recommendation to the selectmen to remove him so that it changes your quorum number.
That's true. Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
I will make the motion. I will make the motion to have the Board of Selectmen consider the removal of Mr. Deeds from the subcommittee
Based on his resignation.
based on his inability to serve.
There you go.
So moved.
All in favor?
Seconded.
Aye.
Oh, wait, no.
Any discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. That said, if anyone runs across anyone, maybe that's not a good term. If anyone bumps in, no, maybe not bumps into. If anyone finds that there's another individual that would like to serve, please bring them to our attention, and we'll bring them to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Well,
Been
also
trying to talk to a lot of people about it, but
so
go ahead, Glenn.
I'll say this weekend I'll meet with Andrew, and let's say I don't know, the following weekend. I mean, we will be down here at 18 Lane Street for real after the 10th. That's when the last.
Yay!
So I'll be walking.
That'll be 3 village people.
I'm a village person.
3 village people.
So we could we can have a walking meeting. Let's have a walking. I mean, come on, we're noise and traffic. We should be walking around. So Joyce, we can pick out a good time for you, Joyce, too. You can join us.
That's fine.
my baby will have to be with us.
That's exciting.
It can't, he loves being outside. It can't be Tuesdays or Thursdays because I work up at the hospital. But we make it a point to be at the library at 10 when it opens on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that's what we walk around, and so, in the morning.
Well, Wednesdays are a good day for me. That's my day off. So
okay, let's try. If
we want to try to pencil something for next Wednesday.
Let's do
after the 10th, though, right, Glenn?
Let's go. Yeah, let's go after the 10th. Can we go the 16th? Wednesday the 16th.
Yeah.
Tough.
I'm actually out of town on the 16th.
16th?
And do we have a meeting on the 17th, or that's a Board of Selectmen meeting, right?
Right, that's Board of Selectmen.
That is, yes.
Right. So
but are we still meeting next Thursday, the 10th?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
I mean, we could do the 9th if you want.
That'd be great for me.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the 9th.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Andrea?
Yeah, we're generally done and cleaned up from breakfast at around like 8:30. So we could go walk around for an hour, like 8:39ish, something, whatever you guys, what works for you guys. The baby wakes up at 6. I'm awake.
Joyce, can you get out, or would you like to do lunchtime, or what? You interested?
I'm not really a member of the committee, so it really don't work your schedule around me. So whatever works for you guys, and then if I can work it in, I'll do it.
So keep in mind, Joyce is here to facilitate our meeting on Zoom.
Yes.
She's not a recording secretary or anything like that. She's just a facilitator, and an ombudsman who knows lots of stuff that have gone through town. So she's a great font there of knowledge. So she doesn't need to be with us. Because it'll be a warned meeting and we have to actually have a place to start. Okay.
You guys want to start at my house, and we can
that's probably
south
appropriate.
And see where the sidewalk abruptly falls off the edge of the road, down the hill into the greenhouse, and then go north.
Okay, well, we'll start at your house. Can you what's your address again?
Can I not say my address on something that's going to be on the World Wide Web? I'll email you.
Email us.
Okay, but it does have to be posted where we're meeting, so.
Okay, then how about we meet at the lot across the street from my house?
Very good.
where
And what time are we doing that?
What time?
You guys want to say 9? Keep it even.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the morning at
Yeah.
the empty lot. Sounds like a Clancy movie.
Clancy movie.
Yeah, we gotta. Okay, so that sounds great. March 9th, and we'll do a walk around for.
I will warn that. Am I also warning Thursday night as well?
Please.
Okay.
What does it mean to warn? Oh, are we supposed to put the fact that we just made these meetings into motions?
Well, we haven't motioned that yet.
Okay, I'm just trying to take good notes.
Yep. All right, so I make a motion that we have a walk around meeting on March 9th, a Wednesday at 9 a.m. starting at the empty lot just south of Patco, or actually the mobile station now, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And do we not have that, the 10th meeting warned yet, Joyce?
I warn him.
You warned them, okay. But we still have that on the docket, right?
Yeah, I just have to do the official agenda.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so I think what we can do is we can end here, but let's have everybody just reread those documents and see, so we can be actually mindful of what was discussed and what has already been audited, and we can see if things have been done, haven't been done. And then from there, we can make recommendations, I think, or at least start to pull it together.
Great.
Makes sense?
Does.
All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Okay. Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks, Joyce. I appreciate it. Bye.